You write, thanks to WikiLeaks, we know that behind the scenes, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, Vice President Joe Biden, Attorney General Eric Holder pushed for convictions because of political pressure from a corrupt Iraqi government that they wanted to make appear legitimate. I know it sounds crazy, yet this is what happened, and I saw it with my own eyes.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Comment on that?
So, for a long time, it was pretty obvious, because the defense attorneys told the guys and their families when the trial was going on or when they were indicted initially in 2008 that it was basically a show trial just to show the Iraqis that they were going to hold somebody accountable for the supposed massacre in Nisr Square. And they felt, they put on a very small number of witnesses because, as one of them told me, we didn't think they didn't have any evidence. So we just thought we were going to go through the motions and the jury would eventually vote to acquit them. Well, what they didn't realize was that they were going to be tried in Washington, D.C., where,
Oh, so
people are
scary.
not, yeah. And I mean, they violated the venue laws in ways that I describe in the book that are just outrageous. And the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers wrote an amicus brief on their behalf saying if the government is allowed to shop venue anywhere they want, there is just absolutely no guarantee of due process. So where they should have been tried was Salt Lake City, where they had another defendant who was eventually removed from the case or dismissed from the case, or Sparta, Tennessee, where Nick Slatton is from, the Dallas area, where Paul Slough is from, and Dustin is from Olney, which is close to that. But so all or New Hampshire, where Evan's from. Any of those venues would have been fine, but it wouldn't have guaranteed them the result that they wanted. So basically, we were kind of like, okay, they take them to DC, and that was bad. I mean, they did fight against it, but we didn't know for sure that that's what was going on until Kristen Slough's attorney, Dave Harrison, checked WikiLeaks and found those emails between Hillary Clinton and I think his name is Harold Goh, who was her chief legal
Mm.
counsel. And it was literally the day after the pardons, or not pardons, the dismissal of the case was made public in Iraq. It was, I think, January 2nd or 3rd. She immediately emailed him and said, how can we make this case come back?
Oh my gosh.
And that's literally it. It's like, so she did that, and then Joe Biden goes to Iraq about 2 weeks later and guarantees the Iraqis that, they're going to get justice. It's like, what? The second most powerful man in the world is going on TV and saying essentially that you're guilty and you got away with it. So I mean, there's no way that there is a jury pool anywhere that didn't hear that. So it's like, why would you do that? There's no presumption of innocence here when you're out there doing this stuff. And
So
the reason is because of what else those cables revealed, which was that they were trying to get Maliki to win in the March election, which was 2 months away, and he was complaining to the White House that he needed to look tough for his constituents. That those are the words that are in the cables, and he was demanding that they appeal this decision. So essentially, American domestic policy and criminal justice is being decided by Nouri al-Maliki and the desire to have him as the prime minister of Iraq.
I had a guest on, well, I don't know, it's been in the last 12 months. A husband who was over fighting in, I think, Afghanistan, and the they went into a firefight, and it was horrible. And one of the people was holding a baby, mom. She was holding a baby, and she had a suicide vest on. They killed her. The baby lived, and the Afghanis, that were fighting with the Americans wanted to kill the baby because they were like, that baby will grow up and then be, angry at our side, and so we got to kill it. And the Americans were like, no, and took the baby, and it eventually went back and forth, and this guy and his wife decided to adopt the little girl and bring her to America. But then the State Department got involved. And the State Department, needed to have the smooth exit, if you could call that smooth, and they needed to make a deal. And this baby was evidence that there were foreign fighters in Iraq, which they had said, no, there's no foreign fighters. So they had to erase this evidence. And so they were giving the baby back to nobody. There was no evidence that this family was related at all. It went back and forth. And here's a soldier telling me the story and saying, it was my government. It was my State Department that lied and made us into the bad guys because they needed the bad guys to, end the war and end it in the way the State Department needed. And it's like, I mean, how do you tolerate a government that will do all these things?
Well, I mean, and they're way more concerned with optics and some bizarre story that they've invented, and then they just need to erase any evidence that the opposite is the true. I mean, that's exactly what happened with the Raven 2-3 case, and it's just bizarre. It's like you're spending. I never got an answer about how much this costs, but I asked some defense attorneys about it, and they said, okay, 3 trials and probably at least half a dozen lawyers from the DOJ, not including the support staff, how much it costs to bring something like 46 Iraqis over to testify and keep them here for a month, let some of them stay, preserve the evidence, which wasn't collected for a month after the incident. It probably cost about $50 million. And you're like, okay, we can't think of a different way that doesn't cost $50 million and ends up with 4 innocent people in jail.
Yeah.
Really? You can't figure that out. So somewhere
it's just
along the
easier.
line,
it's just easier. People don't matter to this system, it seems. It's easier.
No, I just don't. I think that's probably right. And I think that not everybody in government is bad, but
no,
it's just like what I went through trying to report on this case. The peer pressure is immense not to divert from what your side is saying. It is almost violent anger when you do that. And I just don't understand that. It's like, how do you get up in the morning and feel like you're doing anything valuable to the rest of society if you have to lie constantly to yourself about what's happening?
I think it's really hard to admit that you've been wrong when you've built your whole life on something you believed in. And then you realize, I might be part of that. It takes an enormous amount of courage and fortitude to do that. I mean, you've done it, I've done it, but I think there's a lot of people that just, their whole world will collapse around. They think their whole world will collapse around them if they, decide, I'm not necessarily switching horses. I'm just getting off this horse because this horse is taking me to the wrong place.
Yeah, exactly. I am sympathetic to that because probably I would say the last 10 years of my career as a daily journalist, I understand. I saw every, day to day when I was covering the financial crisis, there were times at Reuters where stories were pulled because some hedge fund manager was mad. Don't report on that. What was happening with the bank collapse because they pay for a lot of Reuters terminals. So there's a huge economic incentive to just go along with it. And because we do that, we tend to idolize these people who have a lot of money because of the erosion of the middle class. That's the power. We have to hang to the tailcoats of people who have money because we don't have that power anymore. And I guess one of the things that I want to I want to make clear about in the book is you do have power. We are fighting in exactly the same system that everybody else is right now, but we had it because we stood together and we stood
Yes.
for the truth.